In 1999, a confession by convicted paedophile James Gallogley, written while he was dying of stomach cancer, identified where Anderson's body was dumped and implicated 𝗧𝗿𝗄𝗃 in the killing. Both 𝗧𝗃𝗃 and Gallogley worked for the same bus company in the town. In his 15-page confession, Gallogley, a former church elder, claimed the girl was taken back to Baxter's bus depot in Coatbridge, where she was abused by 𝗧𝗃𝗃 and another, unnamed man. He wrote, "People are going to ask why I now want to come clean, and I believe this is the time to clear my chest and also clear the air. It is not meant to be a dossier for forgiveness, but to try to make amends for what other people and I did to these children." The chilling confession also claimed they sedated the girl before abusing her and then put her in the seat box of a bus. It added, "Somebody looked at her later, and she was dead, but we believe it was the cold that killed her as it was very bitter that night." Gallogley made his confession to Alec Keil, a fellow inmate at Peterhead Prison, before his death from stomach cancer in 1999. In the dossier compiled by Keil, Gallogley claims Moira was abused by one of his friends and an unnamed accomplice at a bus depot. He said her body was placed in the seat box of a bus, and that she was later found to be dead. "We believe it was the cold that killed her as it was very bitter that night," he said. A few days later, her body was dumped in what was known locally as the Terry burn, claimed Gallogley. 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 activist killed over child sex files. A firebrand 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 activist, who died in mysterious circumstances, was to expose a paedophile ring that would have brought down the government, it was claimed last night. By Paula Murray, Sunday, November 30th, 2014. Willie McRae was said to have discovered child abuse by cabinet ministers and other leading members of the establishment on both sides of the border. Shortly before his death, he was seen photocopying a dossier of names, in case something should happen to him. Some years ago, McRae was linked with another document describing a network of high-ranking Scottish paedophiles, dubbed the Untouchables, based on the deathbed confession of child abuser James Gallogley. But the dossier was dismissed as a hoax. Before leaving Glasgow for his cottage near Kintail, Westeros, the 62-year-old showed a briefcase of documents to a friend, PC Donald Morrison, and told him, "I've got them this time." However, despite phoning ahead to ask for the fire to be lit, he never made it to his destination. Instead, his body was found the next morning off the A87, with a bullet wound to his head. A gun was near the car leading to the suicide verdict. Mrs. Borders added, McRae had worked so hard to expose this disgusting cancer. He knew it was dangerous, which is why he made the backup copies. Not that anything has ever come of them. He had been due to leave Glasgow much earlier than he did, but his tyres had been slashed. That's not something that's widely known. In those days, nobody wanted to be on the Highland roads at night. There was nothing open after 9 p.m, yet he only headed up the road at 6:30 p.m. It would take him until late to reach his destination. The only reason is somebody made sure he would be alone on the roads. Calls for a public inquiry have been unsuccessful despite the fact the gun had been fired twice and was found some distance from the car. Furthermore, although McRae was not wearing gloves, there were no fingerprints on the firearm. His briefcase or the documents it contained have never been found. Mr. Morrison said he believed McRae may have first heard of the ring from his friend Lord Mountbatten, the Queen's cousin who was killed by the IRA in 1979, or from somebody linked to him. McRae had been Lord Mountbatten's aide-de-camp in India when he was a young lieutenant commander in the Royal Indian Navy.